INDIANA, that's Indiana. Ballin' like Reggie Miller, that's Indiana. I put up on my state, that's Indiana. Watch me rep it in your face, that's Indiana. That's Indiana, that's Indiana.
Hi, I'm Matt from Ludovox, and today we are at GenCon 2016 on the fourth day on the booth of Great Northern Games with Jay, the designer of Council of Blackthorn. Hi, Jay.
How you doing?
that is an answer. What about you?
I'm doing awesome. It's been 4 days and we've had a lot of response, a lot of positive response to the game. And so I'm going to go through a demo. You've asked me to film a demo so everybody can see what the premise is for the game. It's called Council of Blackthorn, if I didn't say that. And I don't know if you want me to start with the description already?
Maybe how many players can play this? And
it's 2 to 6 players, and it is about 4 players will take about 55 minutes, 5 players about an hour and 10 minutes, so somewhere in that range. And so the premise of the game is that the king consolidated the kingdoms several years ago, but now it's been many years and he's not really involved in running the government anymore, not really interested in it. So the government the country is being run by the council of the king. And so all of each of the players plays one of the council members. There's 6 characters to play. This is an example of one of them. This is the queen. And there's Queen, there's the Minister of Coin, there's the 7th Vigil,
the Lord of War,
and the Lord of the Tower. So there's 6 characters. So the object of the game is there are 4 political factions: the legions, the nobles, the guilds, and the peasants, who also represent the clergy. So the object of the game is to be the council member that builds the most influence and most power by the end of the game. However, at the end of the game, the king is going to behead one of the council members to keep, because he is still the king, just to keep all of the other council members in check. So basically, create your power base, create your influence, and try to keep a low profile so you can get one of your other friends beheaded, because everybody loves beheading friends and family members.
Sure. So I guess that the track here indicates the victory points that we net for having influence.
Right. So as you play the game, for example, if we take, again, let's take the character of the queen. This measures, here's the queen, this is the queen's symbol, and so you can see this is the amount of influence the queen has with the peasants, with the legion, with the nobles, not very popular with her own group, and with the guilds themselves, or the merchants. So throughout the game, each turn, the right hand of the king is going to roll the dice, and they're custom dice. There's 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3. So those dice represent the amount of levels of influence that you'll gain by playing a card of that faction. So we'll move some of the cards in here. For example, this is a noble card. It matches the noble track. And if on my turn, each player plays 1 card. On my turn, if I play the princess, the red die is a 2. So let's say I was the queen. I would gain 2 levels of influence on the noble track. Now, the more interesting thing, or just as interesting, is each card has a second function, and that is a text function or a powerful effect that you would like. However, in order for you to trigger this, you have to have at least 4 influence with the guild. So when you play a card, you always get the influence within the faction that you've played, but to get the full effect of the card, you always have to have at least a certain amount of influence in a different faction. It's never the same faction. So you always have to build influence in one faction so that your cards in a different political faction actually trigger their powers. And that creates a really simple yet complex strategy to try that you always have to be thinking 2 or 3 turns ahead in order to make sure that all of your cards work. Now as the game continues on, each one of your turns you end up scoring points depending on whether you are in the lead. At the end of your turn, you get 2 points, 2 influence points from the bank for every faction that you are leading in. All of these coins for influence have the same back. So as you pile up, I don't know if you can see this or not, but as you continue on throughout the game, you score points. The other players don't know how many points you have. They can tell how many points you've scored in factions, but they can't tell for coins. So you continue to play the game. When you get to 13, when any player gets to 13 in a level, that locks out that faction. If at any point in time during the game, if 3 of the factions are locked at level 13, then the game ends. Everybody adds up all of their points that they scored for each faction, and then they also reveal the number of points they scored in coins, which nobody knows, and then they score for their buildings. So at that point in time, everybody knows how much influence everyone scored. Now the interesting thing is also throughout the game, players have been receiving treason cards. That's the back of the treason deck. I'll move this over. And there are 4 types of treason cards. A treason card ties an event. It says that they're bribes, spies, rumors, and poison. So at the end of the game, as you play the game, you are going to be collecting these cards based off of how you play the game. And players can move these cards back and forth with each other. They can do things to make you gain more of these. In general, the more obvious that you are in the lead, the more of these cards other players will give you. At the end of the game, you reveal the cards, usually dramatically, slowly. We start with the player that has the least amount of influence points. And at the end of the last thing you do then is the player that scores the most number of treason points is beheaded by the king and and removed from the game. So after that, then the remaining player that has the highest influence wins the game and becomes the most powerful council member. So that's it.
Yeah, but I noticed that the players, the different factions had player powers. Are they a bit different?
Yes. All 6 characters have different actions that they can do, different powers, different descriptions. And so every time you play this game with a different character, it plays completely differently. So they're asymmetrical powers. It's been played hundreds of times, so they're all balanced. And I've played every one of these characters a bunch. Most people have their favorite character that they like to play.
So you are the designer of Council of Blackthorn, and how did you have the idea of Council of Blackthorn? Was it the backstabbing element? Was it a narrative in which you had to manage different factions, or a mechanic idea?
Well, 15 months ago I was watching a popular television series, and I was noticing that the kings in the story, the kings keep getting killed, and they keep moving along, and they keep bumping each other off. But the council members somehow always manage to pull all these strings and be on this intricate spider web that no one catch. And I always wondered, how is it that they aren't getting beheaded or killed? How do they manage to get intertwined in all of the different things that they're doing? And the idea just hit me. So I had to try to sit down. I sat down and said, I want to create something where influence in one area has to be gained to get influence in another area, and that all of it is tied together. So there isn't just one thing you can go do. You have to do you have to be good at several different things, and there's a lot of little pieces. Yeah. So I wanted to create kind of a spider web in my mind, where if you tweaked part of the spider web over here, it vibrated over on this side. And then, and I have 17 game design principles. So one of them is to push the end condition, the win condition, as far to the end as possible to keep players engaged. So in this particular game, nobody knows until the very end who actually won because there's hidden information. And then the next step, nobody knows who's going to lose their head until the last, sometimes it might be the last 5 seconds of the game. So that's where the idea came from.
Do you have room for example, expansions if the response is there?
Yes, absolutely. So we have, I won't talk about it, but yeah, we have about 4 expansion ideas that we've tried so far. Okay. I would say 3 of the 4 have worked. 1 of them did not. So there'll be things like extra characters, more characters to play. We'll also bring in other factions. We're also studying a co-op, a little sub-game cooperative element to it. So that one's tricky, but that's the one I'm most excited about. So.
Maybe team spirit, where you can backstab other people in your team to get more points?
Yeah, well, there's always going to be backstabbing. I have my game design group is 6. We're always 6 players, and we like to play at least 2 or 3 games a night. So I try to design for 6 players. I design so we can play more than once a night, and I try to design it so there's a lot of backstabbing. That's just the group that that are my closest friends. So, and this game fits that bill perfectly. So.
Well, thank you very much, Jay, for your time and for this beautiful overview of Council of Blackthorn. Right. Bye. See you on Udovox.
Thanks.
INDIANA, that's Indiana. Ballin' like Reggie Miller, that's Indiana. I put on for my state, that's Indiana. Watch me rep it in your face, that's Indiana. That's Indiana, that's Indiana.